So, I just finished watching Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003, starring Eric Bana, Jennifer Connelly, Nick Nolte, and Sam Elliott. And I have to say, this movie is fascinating. This is Marvel Mayhem, the series where I watch every Marvel movie and television series on my way to becoming the most prolific reviewer of all time. So it's fascinating not necessarily because it's a masterpiece, because it's unlike almost every superhero movie that came after it. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, and I know that's going to surprise some people, but let me explain. Was Hulk actually a failure? One of the most interesting things about revisiting this movie is realizing how history rewrites itself. For years, I had this impression that Hulk was some gigantic flop, but while I was watching it, I looked up the box office, and that's not true at all. It wasn't a flop, not even close. The movie earned over $245 million worldwide against a production budget of around $137 million. It also set several opening weekend records for Universal at the time, including the biggest June opening weekend, until it was surpassed a couple of years later by Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So, why does everyone remember it as a failure then, if it wasn't actually a failure? I think it's because it didn't launch a franchise and it eventually was overshadowed by the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When people think of the Hulk today, they think of Mark Ruffalo. Eric Bana's version has almost become forgotten, along with Bill Bixby, actually. But is this the most comic book movie ever? What's really fascinating is that this might be one of the most comic book like superhero movies ever made. And I don't just mean that it's based on a character from Marvel Comics. I mean, it actually tries to look and feel like you're reading a comic book. Ang Lee constantly uses split screens that resemble comic panels. Scenes transition like you're turning pages. The editing jumps between multiple frames. Even the action is staged to resemble comic book artwork. I think Spider Man from 2002 feels much closer to what would eventually become the formula for the MCU, and unfortunately, superhero movies nowadays. Hulk goes in the complete opposite direction. Instead of trying to be a crowd pleasing action movie, it becomes a psychological family drama that just happens to involve a giant green monster. Superhero movies used to be allowed to be weird. One thing I really miss about pre MCU superhero movies is that they could be anything. Comic books are one of the most flexible storytelling mediums ever created. You can tell horror stories, crime stories, science fiction, romance, comedy. Like, you imagine, if you can imagine it, you can make it happen in a comic book. Um, Anything really. But for the past decade or so, because of the MCU, a lot of superhero movies have gravitated towards a similar blend of action, comedy, and science fiction. Think a James Gunn movie, and it's not bad, but it's all the same. But Hulk reminds you that comic book movies don't all have to follow the same formula. Bruce Banner's greatest enemy in this is not actually the Hulk, it's Bruce Banner's father. So I should explain a little bit about the movie and what happened. So Nick Nolte plays David Banner. And honestly, this might be one of my favorite Nick Nolte performances. David starts out as a scientist obsessed with cellular regeneration. He believes regeneration could unlock immortality. Naturally, the military is interested in that research because imagine what that could mean for wounded soldiers. When his experiments hit a dead end, David decides to experiment on himself, and then his wife becomes pregnant with Bruce. Soon they discover Bruce has inherited the genetic mutations. The military wants to shut the project down. David becomes increasingly paranoid, believing Bruce has become something dangerous. He attempts to kill his own son. Instead, he accidentally kills Bruce's mother. David is imprisoned for decades while Bruce grows up with foster parents, completely unaware of what really happened. It's surprisingly tragic, which I think is necessary for a good Hulk film. It's a nice callback for TV fans because David Banner was actually the name that was used for the Hulk, the non-Hulk character in the 1978 Incredible Hulk television series starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. More on that later. The movie keeps that name as a tribute. There's even a better callback. One scene features Stan Lee alongside Lou Ferrigno, who famously played the Hulk in the television series. I think it's one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos because it also acknowledges the history of the Hulk in live action. Years later, Bruce is working as a scientist alongside Betty Ross, played by Jennifer Connelly, who, whatever happened to her, gorgeous. The two used to be in a relationship, and there's still obvious chemistry between them. During a laboratory accident involving gamma radiation, Bruce throws himself in front of a blast to save a colleague. Normally, that would kill someone. Instead, it activates the genetic alterations hidden inside him since birth. That's when the Hulk is born. Unlike the comics, where Bruce becomes the Hulk after exposure to gamma radiation from a nuclear bomb test, this movie ties the transformation directly to his father's experiments. It's a significant change, but one that reinforces the movie's central theme of generational trauma. Nick Nolte, as I said, absolutely commits to this role. He's intense, he's unstable, he's unpredictable. It's basically like Nick Nolte in real life playing a character. There's this constant feeling that underneath all of his scientific ambitions is someone who completely lost his grip on reality years ago. It's one of the strongest performances in the film. And yes, the Hulk does fight giant dogs. We get one of the movie's most infamous scenes. So David mutates several dogs and sticks them on Betty. I don't know how he managed to do that, but he does that. Bruce transforms into the Hulk and fights them. And, does the CGI hold up? Not really. It's very much early 2000s computer animation. But honestly, making the Hulk convincing in live action has always been difficult. I don't think the MCU Hulk looks much better than this one. The visuals, though, are incredibly ambitious. Where this movie really shines is its visual creativity. Even if the CGI has aged, the artistic direction has not. One moment that really stood out to me is when the Hulk is covered in mud during his escape through the desert. It's a simple image, but it grounds the character in a way that makes him feel almost tangible. I mean, it still looks like a big cartoon Hulk, but it looks better than the MCU one, I think. Then there's the climactic battle. So Ang Lee frames parts of the final fight almost exactly like comic panels, with flashes of lightning illuminating Hulk in dramatic poses. It's really good, really beautiful. The whole movie feels like a comic book brought to life, not just adapted, but translated. So Eric Bana later said he plays the Hulk and David Banner said that he felt somewhat lost during production. He described the set as unusually quiet and said Ang Lee didn't provide much direction. But honestly, I think Bana does an excellent job as the Hulk. Bruce Banner is quiet, withdrawn, emotionally repressed. He's terrified of what he might become. There's one of my favorite lines in the movie regarding this. Betty is worried about what happens, like the damage that would happen when Eric transforms into the Hulk. And Bruce replies, Bruce transforms into the Hulk. He says, "You know what scares me? I like it." So that's a fantastic piece of character writing. The performances are strong across the board. Jennifer Connelly, like she's crying in almost every scene, but it's believable. She brings a real sense of sadness and compassion to Betty Ross. Sam Elliott is convincing as General Ross, a military man caught between protecting his daughter and protecting his country. And as I said, Nick Nolte delivers an unforgettable performance as a father whose obsession destroys his family. And Eric Bana gives Bruce Banner a quiet, emotional depth that often gets overlooked. So, if I really like this movie so much, why isn't it a perfect movie? Because it's long. It's really long. At 2 hours and 18 minutes, you definitely feel the runtime. The pacing is slow, especially in the first half. There were moments when I really thought I was nearing the end, only to realize I still had like only 40 minutes had gone by. But despite that, I'm still giving Hulk from 2003 a 9 out of 10. Why? Because it's visually inventive, it's emotionally ambitious, it's willing to take risks. Most importantly, it proves something that we've forgotten. I mean, people who make these kind of movies. Comic book movies don't have to look like the MCU. They don't have to feel like the MCU. They can be completely different. They can be strange. They can be experimental. They can be deeply personal. And honestly, I'd love to see more superhero movies take risks like this again. Thanks for watching my review of Hulk from 2003. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, do you prefer Eric Bana's Hulk, Edward Norton's Hulk, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, or even Bill Bixby's Hulk, the classic? I'll see you in the next review.